Apollos Chariot vs. Candymonium, a battle between the newest and oldest B&M hypercoasters. Both of these coasters hold a respectable spot in my top 10, but which is truly the better ride? Does newer really equal better? Well, in this video, I will be comparing these two attractions across 7 different categories to see which is truly the superior ride. The following categories will be the ride length, the first drop, smoothness, presentation, fun factor, intensity, and airtime. But before we start comparing the two hypercoasters, we need to know a little bit about the two attractions. Apollos Chariot opened at Busch Gardens Williamsburg back in 1999 as roller coaster manufacturer B&M's first attempt at a hypercoaster. The ride would open and immediately received praise from both enthusiasts and parkgoers alike for being one of the best coasters in the state of Virginia. The ride is located in the Festa Italia section of Busch Gardens and is themed towards the Roman god of the sun, Apollo. Sadly though, you don't see much theming throughout the layout other than the ride's station and a tunnel you go through after the first camelback. Anyways, next up we got Candymonium. Candymonium is the newest hypercoaster from B&M and opened at Hersheypark in 2020. The coaster is located at the also new for 2020 Chocolate Town section of the park, and as the name implies, it's themed towards candy. This theme is present throughout the ride, and as you go through the queue line, there are candy wrappers plastered all throughout the roof and walls. And on ride, you traverse a helix around the Hershey Kisses fountain. Anyways, now that you know a little bit about these two coasters, let's start this battle. Okay, to start off, our first category is ride duration. With ride duration, it is pretty easy to find the winner, as all we have to do is figure out which coaster has a longer drop to break ride time. With that, Apollos Chariot comes out on top with 68 seconds of prime ride time and absolutely destroys Candymonium's 54 seconds. I am not at all surprised by this outcome, because when I ride Apollos Chariot, I feel like it lasts forever. However, when I get off of Candymonium, I always feel like the ride is just too short and needs 1 or 2 more elements. Anyways, with that, Apollos Chariot takes a 1-0 lead, and it's time to get into our next category. That category is the first drop. Both of these coasters feature great first drops as they are over 200 feet tall. Candymonium's drop is taller and steeper, with a 216 foot and 77 degree angle drop, while Apollos Chariot only books in at 210 feet tall and a 66 degree angle drop. With that, you may be thinking that Candymonium has a better drop, but one thing about Apollos drop is that it features a tiny dip after the lift hill, which allows it to build up some speed. Because of that, you get yanked over the first drop, getting some borderline ejector airtime in the back rows, while Candymonium is more traditional, coming straight off the lift hill, giving only mild sustained floater. So anyways, with that aside, Apollos Chariot has a dominant first drop and takes a 2-0 lead against Candymonium. Now to move on to our third category, ride smoothness. Being B&M hypercoasters, both rides are fairly smooth, however there is a clear winner in this category. As stated earlier, Apollos Chariot is now over 20 years old, and Apollos Chariot is not even 3 years old yet. Because of that, Apollos Chariot has developed a bit of a rattle over the years. Is that rattle bad? No, but it is still pretty noticeable. Meanwhile, Candymonium, being under 3 years old, still operates butter smooth and is probably the smoothest coaster I've ever ridden. So Candymonium is going to get its first win of the day, bringing the score up to 1-2. Now on to the next round, presentation. In case you're confused on what this means, it's basically the looks and themes of the coaster. Both of these coasters are very visually stunning, but we have to pick a winner. Apollos Chariot features an amazing purple and yellow color scheme and dominates over the park's entrance road, while Candymonium is right up at the front gate and does a helix around the Hershey Kiss fountain. Because of the helix around the fountain, I will give Candymonium the point, which now ties up our score 2-2. Now on to our final 3 categories, and what's next is the fun factor. What is the fun factor, you ask? Well, basically the enjoyment you get out of the two coasters. As stated earlier, both of these coasters are B&M hypers, which might just be the most enjoyable coaster in the industry. While Candymonium is more smooth and graceful, Apollos Chariot is more action-packed and rattly. Whichever coaster you prefer more would go down to your personal preference, so I'm going to have to give both of these coasters a point for that category, pushing the score up to 3-3. Now on to our second to last comparison, intensity. As B&M hypercoasters, which are famously not very intense, this might seem like a stupid category to add, but I think there's a very clear winner. While Candymonium is very smooth and not intense at all, Apollos Chariot has some roughness and feels to have stronger and more forceful airtime. Because of this, I give this point to Apollos Chariot. Now that the score is 3-4, it is time for a final and most important category, airtime. Airtime is the main focus of both of these coasters, and despite being the same model, the airtime feels very different on these rides. Candymonium gives you very sustained floater airtime, while Apollos Chariot gives you much stronger, but also much less sustained airtime. Just like the fun factor, this all goes down to personal preference, but I personally much prefer Apollos Chariot more intense airtime over Candymonium's smooth and graceful airtime. Now with that, Apollos Chariot has won the coaster war with a score of 3 to 5. Both of these coasters are great and hold a spot in my top 10, but that is it for today's video. Before I give my outro though, I would like to thank you all so much for 200 subscribers. This was my goal to reach by 2023, and we absolutely crushed it. Now on that note, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, maybe consider subscribing. I'm still a very new channel on YouTube, and I now hope to reach 300 subs by the end of the year. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.